Hi there, and welcome to another Dech Academy video. Here we have question 14 of the same exam, the same Maths June 2013 Waec exam, and it says, it goes anyway, given that p to the power of 1 over 3 is equal to 3 times the square root of q divided by r, make q the subject of the equation. And just before I start, to just point out that this question involves the knowledge of the laws of indices, one in particular, and algebraic manipulations, and most especially the knowledge of how to make a variable, in this case q, the subject of an equation. I mean, the first thing you need to realize is that anything raised to the power of 1 over 3, I'm going to use a different expression. Anything raised to the power of 1 over 3 is the cube root, or let's put it this way. The cube root of any term is the same thing as raising that term to the power of 1 over 3. So 27, okay, let me use an easy, 27, really. 27 to the 1 over 3 is the same thing as saying the same thing as saying the cube root of 27. You can easily find cube roots on your calculators if you have a good enough calculator anyway, because if you can't do that, then that calculator is not good enough for the exam. So that's what I mean by good enough. So you need to know that. In fact, in other words, any term raised to the power of, let's call it n, 1 over n, is the nth root of that term. So a to the half is to, I don't want to say tooth, but it's the square root of a. The nth thing applies from 3, 4, 5, 6. So if we had a to the 1 over 4, you'd be looking for the 4th root. And this can be done on a calculator, but it's not needed for this question. So I just thought I'd point out that important piece of notation to you before I proceed. Another thing you need to know is this particular law of indices. Remember, a to the n, all raised to the m, is a to the n times m, or a to the nm, same thing. For this question, if you so let's say I had something like a to the 1 over 2 all raised to the 4. That's the same thing as saying a to the 1 over 2 times 4. So in this case, n will be half, or 1 over 2, and m will be 4. So you just multiply them together. That's the key thing. And half times 4 is 2. So we're going to be using this idea in this question. So keep this in mind. That looks like I just crossed it out. And yeah, so let's go. Solution. So you're given this. So using the notation I just presented, you know that this is the same thing as, so the cube root of 3, I've just rewritten it as q to the 1 over 3. Why have I done this? Because I want things to be in the form that will make the application of the laws of indices easier. It's easier to work with this notation here than that. So keep that in mind, and for future problems, do this. Especially if you're working with variables. If you're working with numbers, yes, you have the cube root sign of a number, and you just simplify the problem straight away using your calculator. So if you have the cube root of, if q was not cube but 27, cube root of 27, you just work that out as 3 and just write 3 instead of this complicated symbol. So now we have this, and now asked to make q the subject of this expression. So the first thing you do is you want to always get rid of fractions. So how do we do that? Well, we have r as a denominator here. Let's multiply through by r. So multiply the left hand side and right hand side by r, so you can get rid of the r in the denominator, so you no longer have fractions. And this will give us So this cancels. So now we have, well, let me write P. I mean, this is the same thing as R times P to the 1 over 3. I mean, you can reorder the multiplication. The order doesn't matter because this term only involves multiplication. Anyway, this gives us R, P to the 1 over 3. On the right hand side, we have Q to the 1 over 3. So we have this equals that, which is the same thing as saying Q 1 over 3 equals RP to 1 over 3. All I've done is switch the left hand side and right hand side. I have not broken any rules. This is 1 over 3, by the way. It doesn't look so clear. Let me just make that clearer. Actually, let's be neat. Q to the 1 over 3 is RP to the 1 over 3. So I want Q as a subject, not Q 1 over 3. How do I go from Q to the 1 over 3 to Q? Let's see. Using the fact that A to the N, all raised to the N is A times N to the M, N times M, sorry. How do I go from Q to the 1 over 3 to Q? Or let's say Q to the 1. Okay. Consider this. Q to the 1 over 3, all raised to the 3 is what? Q to the 1 over 3 times 3, which is, 3 and 3, 1, which is 1, which is Q. So as a rule of thumb, if you had any term, say x to the 1 over n, and you just wanted x, all you have to do is raise the term to the power of n, that denominator, or even if it was just 2, well, yeah, you just raise it to the denominator and you get Q. You just multiply the powers, right? And you get one. Well, let me make this clear. This is times n. Well, let's do it this way: 1 over n times n, which is the same thing as n over 1, which is what? X. Because this goes here and this is 1. So keep this in mind. You had x to the 1 over n. You wanted to go to just x. You raise the term, the original term, to the power of the denominator of the power. Again, this is 1 over n. So that's an important rule. So now we are here. This is where we start, right? We started with a problem. We multiplied through by r. We simplified the expression. We changed some sides. But at the end of the day, we stopped here. We have Q to the 1 over 3 on the left hand side. We know we just want Q on the left hand side, so that Q can be the subject of the formula. So I'm just going to move to this side and say, okay, let's do the same thing to the left hand side and right hand side. If you've been watching my previous videos, you will be comfortable with the idea of maintaining the equality sign when the same thing is done to the left hand side and right hand side of an equation. And emphasis on equation, because you wouldn't do this for inequalities. For inequalities, you got to be careful, but for equation, this is fine. So from what I just showed you, let's go from Q to the 1 over 3 to Q. So you raise everything to the, wow, this so looks like 11. I got to be careful with this. Q to the 1 over 3. You raise everything to the power of the denominator. You raise everything to the power of the denominator of the power. You raise everything to 3, which is the denominator of the power that Q is raised to. Okay. Since you did that to the left hand side of this equation, because we're following on from this equation, you must do the same thing to the right hand side. So you must do this. You must raise the right hand side as well to 3. So now for our left hand side, let me use a different color just to avoid confusion, because no one ever works like this, just me going down and then going right. Now we have Q to the 1 over 3 times 3 on the left hand side equals, now what is this? Okay, I'll just leave this till last. Step by step is the way. So now we have Q. Let's make that clearer. Now we have Q equals So now Q is the subject of the formula. Q is equal to this on the right hand side. But we can still simplify the right hand side. And if you wanted to actually get the answer that's in the actual multiple choice exam, you need to simplify. So who remembers? I'm talking to a group of people in front of me. There's another important law of indices. I'm going to apply it now. Some of you know it, so this step will make sense. The same thing as r to the 3 times p1 over 3 to the 3. So going from here, you raise each term to the power of 3. I'll show you the exact law that's being applied, but this is r to the 3. Now, times p1 over 3 to the 3 is 1 over 3 times 3. From the law I've been showing you all day, which is p to the 1, or p. So therefore Q is R3 P, or you can rewrite this as P R3. Doesn't matter how you write it. So what did I do here? Well, what was done? How did we go from here to here? I'll change the color again. Now, there's an important law that says if you have, there's another law of indices. So you need to review these laws really. If you have two terms, or not two terms, if you just have terms in a bracket, and you raise them all to a power, you can write it as an expression which is just as follows. Instead of 3, let me write n. This is basically a law of indices. Yeah. xy to the n is equal to x to the n, y to the n. You just raise each term to the power. If you had anything, a, and you had 1 over 5, so a times 1 over 5, for instance, or let's say 1 over 5a, whichever way you want to put it. Let me put it that way. You had 1 over 5a to the n. It will also be 1 over 5 to the n times a to the n. So regardless of what you have, in other words, regardless of what you have, you just raise each term to the power outside. So you just need to remember this and apply this. That's what I did here. So I have q equals this combo raised to the 3. So all I just did was raise r to the 3, which is here, and I raised p1 over 3 to the 3. As you can see, p1 over 3 to the 3. This is 1 over 3, by the way. That is all. So you just need to know the law and apply it. It's as simple as that. This is one of those things you have to memorize. That's it. So this is the final answer. Q equals PR to the 3, or Q equals R raised to the 3 times P. Whichever way you want to put it, this is the answer. So thank you. Have a nice day.